Welcome, Lauren. How are you today?
Doing good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I hope we're actually live. Let's have a look and see if we're streaming. I believe we are. It's so nice to have you on the live today with ABIC. I was actually excited today because I myself am very curious about lash lifts. So I'm going to ask you some questions based on a client's perspective as well. But before we dive into all things lashes, lifts, and cool stuff like that, I'd love you to introduce yourself and tell us, how you came to be in the beauty industry. Tell us a little bit about your role with Elleebana.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been in the industry going on about 9 years now. I did my training back in the US. So over there, I did go through a full licensing for my cosmetology license, which really focuses on hair, skin, makeup, hair, just lash, brow, a little bit of everything. From school, I had my own business for 5 years, providing mostly lash and brow services. Did hair on the side for a bit, but mainly lash extensions, lash lifting, brow lamination. Tried tattooing for a little bit, but that wasn't quite my thing. So we stuck with the lash and brow world for me. Um, from there, I moved to Australia about 3 years ago. I've always been very passionate about education, continuing education. It is so important for our industry. I'm sure everyone watching knows trends literally come up overnight. Things change every single day. So it's very important to stay on top of those, which is why I've always felt so strongly about education. This role with Elleebana came up, so I am our New South Wales Master Educator, so I overlook kind of the Sydney region. But yeah, we host lots of classes all throughout the area for all things lashes and brows.
Oh, how exciting. And it sounds like you're so passionate and really experienced in your field as well. And, our industry is starting to niche, really, really well. And we're starting to get these insane experts in their field. And I believe that, being a master educator, that your passion and focus is in that one direction. And there's so many trends to keep a like a track of. Like sometimes I get lost, especially the Korean. Like we're here to talk about the Korean lash lift versus freestyle. But tell us a little bit, why do you think the Korean skincare, Korean skin, everything, and beauty has taken off so much?
Yeah, that's a great question, I'll be honest. I think it's a very obviously trendy thing at the minute. It's something we're seeing quite a lot on social media. I feel like a lot of the focus with Korean skincare, Korean lash lifting, all of this influence is really coming from a place of results. I feel like a lot of people are getting great results from these types of products and systems and whatever they might be. I'm not claiming to be an expert in that particular region, but I've heard great stories from people with skincare in particular and getting those great results. So I'm sure it's mainly results driven. I know with the Korean lash lift as well, it very much was a fast trend that has kind of come into the picture, and I'm sure it's going to stick around for a while as well, which is great.
Well, that's very cool. I'm so loving that you're across, everyone's always across all the trends. You're extremely innovative, I think, in this space, and you world renowned really for what you do in your products as well. I'm actually curious to know what the difference is. I know I'm probably not, I'm not alone here in thinking, hey, what's a Korean lift versus a freestyle sort of traditional method?
Yeah, for sure. So there's a few different techniques that everyone's kind of talking about at the minute. We of course have our traditional lash lift, which most people would be familiar with. There's the Korean lift, the freestyle lift, and also an adhesive-free lift as well, which is a third technique. Now, with the Korean lift and the freestyle and the adhesive-free methods, they're all going to be a different process to a traditional lift. While the foundations of the service are going to be the same and the results is similar, the steps are going to be quite different to get there. So particularly with the Korean technique, it's really about stretching the lashes out, giving a gorgeous lengthened and lifted result. In that Korean lift, we're wrapping the lashes flat up onto a flat shield using a viscosity controller. So the viscosity controller is a powder that we're mixing into both your lotion one and your lotion two to make it more of a paste-like consistency. So with that paste-like consistency, we're able to paint the lashes flat up really allowing for that stretch and that lengthening in the hair and full saturation during that softening phase in our step one. And that what that's doing is it's really allowing us to soften the hair, and that mechanical tension of brushing the lashes up with the lotion applied allows to reform the lash in a little bit more of a dramatic and different way. With the freestyle method, it's similar, but again, different. With freestyle, you're actually painting the lashes downwards, whereas Korean is painting them upwards. So with the freestyle method, you're not using any viscosity controllers. You're actually just painting your lotion one down either onto your under eye pad or onto like an eye guard. Like we have a tinting eye guard that we'll paint the lashes onto, and you're going to be more gentle with the lashes in that way. So someone with very fragile lashes or more delicate lashes, it's a really great technique for them in particular because there's no strain of pulling the lash upwards. And all it's doing again is the same with the traditional lift. We're softening the hair in that step one, so the lash can be easily repositioned and wrapped up onto your rod or shield for step two.
Right. Okay. And with the, putting them up versus popping them in downwards position, what is that achieving? When you're softening, is it achieving a more dramatic lift in the first version, the Korea version?
Each method is going to suit different lash types. So we really say with the freestyle method, it's going to be great for people, again, with maybe fragile lashes, maybe very unruly or naturally curled lashes, because that process of painting them downwards isn't putting any strain on the actual hair. Whereas with that Korean method, it's going to be great for very downwards growing lashes, very coarse lashes, because we're using that mechanical tension to really stretch the hair out and to push it upwards. It's helping to kind of almost prep the hair for the repositioning and the lift that we're going to be doing.
Oh, I love that. So it's like so it's sort of setting the scene for the actual lift and
yeah, exactly.
more of a foundation for that. But you'd have to make sure you've got the right. I think this is where people get confused because you get a lot of, there's heaps of comments out there of, oh, this didn't work or this worked or, this brand is great and that brand's not great or that method is great and that's not. And I feel like with this particular niche, with this particular area, it's extremely dependent on the person, the hair quality, the situation, and also the exact technique that you're using.
100%.
How are you, like, if you're not getting your technique spot on, that's where the downfall can be.
Yeah, and that's the same for normal lash lifting as well. So it's kind of the same for all three, where the smallest changes in your technique, a slight misapplication can heavily impact that end result. So with choosing between all of these methods, the main thing to consider is which method is going to suit the client in front of you best, exactly like you said. Assess their lashes, assess their eye shape and eye type, and figure out which of these methods is going to suit them when performing the treatment. Even with traditional lash lifting, if your tension of wrapping the lashes up isn't correct, or if you use too much adhesive, it can hinder that result. So we see the same thing across all of the techniques.
How long does it take really for someone to become extremely proficient and sort of like at a bit of an expert level?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say you definitely have to have a diverse clientele to be able to really get your hands across all different lash types that you may encounter. I would say it took me a good 3 years to really do lash lifting over and over and over again, immerse myself in it. That's me personally. I do tend to be a little bit of a perfectionist, so trying to get all those little details. Surrounding yourself with education, doing as many courses as you can, webinars, master classes, attending, industry events. That's all going to help you to learn those little techniques that are going to your results with every single client that may walk through the door. I know I also took a lot of education out of online forums. So when people would post in forums, maybe photos of lifts that didn't work, and all the comments would help with troubleshooting. I know I really benefited from reading those comments and seeing how can you get a great result. So if I have a client come in with that, what am I going to do? I really benefited from that kind of education, but just doing it over and over again, like anything. The more you do it, the better you're going to get.
Yeah, and I love the fact that Elleebana is so focused on education. You know, people who are wanting to get into, this type of niche, or, lash and brows. I mean, it's extremely lucrative. It people just can't go without, right? Once you started on the process, I mean, there's wait lists in really, really good, high quality practitioners out there that are doing it have wait lists for months. You can't miss your appointment. That's how specialized it can be. But if you're really looking at becoming it or bringing it into your clinic as a service, you really have to kind of say, okay, well, who am I going to partner with for starters? Who's going to give me that level of education? Because a good enough lash lift is not really good enough, right? Your clients
Mhm.
complain, they can get really upset. So you want to make sure that you're doing it correctly. You're partnering with someone with a great product, but then it's investing that time in the education. And you're saying to get to master level, it took 3 years. Obviously, when you're bringing on a service like that, you're not going to wait 3 years to promote it. But with the clients that you bring on to Elleebana, so your stockists, from woe to go, I'm interested in getting this into my clinic, salon, or spa. What's the process? Like, how long does it take for me to be able to bring this into my clinic, for example?
For sure, yeah. So all of our courses that we do for everyone who's using our product are a full day course. So it is a full 8-hour day where you get the chance for hands-on applications. Then after that, we do an online process where there's 5 more submissions of case study images that come to us trainers for assessment. So we're giving that detailed feedback on each step of the process that you've performed, giving tips, tricks, pointers, little changes you can make in your application, and really looking for that growth. As long as we see growth across those 5 applications and genuine improvement, we do generally then give the certificate out to the salon to start performing the treatment. And I know I've had students who, they pick it up instantly. By that 5th case study, they are just absolutely dominating it. They're loving it, doing amazing. There's others who, will continue to message long term and offer that support, and even coming out to their salons, doing additional sessions with them and helping to get that hands-on support so the technique really is perfect, because it can be the smallest thing that makes a huge difference. But if you're proficient with doing the service, you can pick it up very fast. I would say on average, though, it would take doing it at least a few months to really build that confidence with doing any treatment at all.
So if I was to send one of my therapists to have the training, I could expect that we'd start the process. It's not instant, because sometimes you think, I want to get this service, or I want to get this product. Instantly they bring it in. It's one day training. Even with some, more heavy type aesthetic modalities, you're often a couple of hours. But with this, it is actually a science and an art together. And what I find fascinating is, because sometimes I jump on the pages to, like, the groups, the Facebook groups, and I have a look and I see what they're talking about. And, they'll say, oh, well, this brand, it's a hit and miss and it doesn't work all the time. Their formula is not, it's not consistent or something. It doesn't give consistent results. And then you have someone saying, what are you talking about? I get consistent results with this formula all the time, or with this technique all the time. And the one thing that I realized is, in aesthetics, like, you'll do a skin needling treatment, let's just say collagen induction therapy, the results aren't the same every time. We know that because the skin reacts differently. And let's say I might be really inflamed one day and I'm having a skin needling treatment, and or I might have an underlying, inflammatory condition, and my results aren't going to be as good. We know there's variability. But for some reason, when practitioners or when clients are talking about lash lift, they don't accept variability. But the truth is that our lashes are, they're biological. They're our hair. And there's so many other things that can go wrong. And it's not the product or the formula. Sometimes it's not even the technique. Sometimes it's the client, hair growth in that particular month, or that particular period of time. Have you found that it's variable sometimes in that way?
Absolutely. You are spot on with all of that. I think the biggest thing when we see people say a product isn't working, no matter what the product
No
is,
matter what it is, yeah.
it's often something so small in your application that has made a difference. Because what I always try to remind students and salons working in the industry is it could be the smallest little habit that you've picked up maybe 10 years down the line that you're not even thinking of that could make a difference in that end result. It could even be the environment you're performing the treatment in. Like
Environment.
lash lifting solutions are temperature sensitive. If it's too warm, if it's too cool, that's going to have an
What
impact.
about a body temperature? You know, if someone comes in with unwell and they've got a fever, or
Absolutely could.
aftercare. Like this, I feel like I have read some articles that suggest that hair growth is dependent on, obviously, you know, on your biological state, and that you can get varying lash lift and brow treatments depending on how you are feeling and your state of biology at the time. Have you heard
Of
this?
course. And even if you think about it, hair growth is heavily affected by our hormones. So
Totally.
even hormonal fluctuations. In our courses, I know we talk about pregnancy, breastfeeding, taking the pill, HRT, thyroid medications, different medications clients may be on, menopause, puberty, all of it is going to have a factor in the result we're getting. So
Right.
we do say if you do have fluctuating hormones, you know, you may get inconsistent results where we may get a stunning lift one time, but if your hormone levels are different the next time, that could have affected your hair growth. It could affect your hair's resistance. It could affect the way that it's going to lift. The next time, maybe you don't get a great result. Even the next time after that, maybe one eye gets a great result, the other eye doesn't. It just becomes unpredictable. And that really does come down to just your canvas, your client at that point.
I love that you've said that because I don't think people are talking about that enough. I think that, you know, it feels like it's more like this is a grooming service. It should work the same way, just like my makeup goes on the same way, or my lipstick looks the same every time, you know, even though it doesn't really. But, you know, it should be that consistent result where no one's really talking about there's other factors there. It could be the most splendid formula, and you might even have a great technique, and then you're let down by other things. All right, so let's move on to the actual technique as well. I'm so curious. I'm asking all these questions because I'm personally curious myself. I don't know a huge amount about it. And I'd really love to know sort of more about if if I was a person bringing this into my clinic, salon or spa, where would I position it? Because this is all this talk about pricing. And there's
Yeah.
this talk about, oh, you should be competitive, right, in your services because people will then don't buy from you. And then you've got this subset of people and clinics that just seem to be smashing it consistently. They're getting, you know, they're booked out 90%, sometimes 100%, waiting lists up to wazoo. They're charging through the roof. And I'm talking about premium pricing here, and they're doing so well and they're offering the exact same service. Explain to me how this is, and explain to me also where should this be positioned with regards to pricing.
For sure. I always say to students as well, when you are pricing yourself, you do have to be competitive until you have that reputation, skill level, whatever it might be. I think that's a huge factor when we look at the price of service. Isn't just the service you're providing, it's the product you're using, the education behind it, and also the experience that you're giving to your clients. Those little touch points through that client experience of what does your marketing look like? How fast are you responding to messages? When they walk in the salon, what's the atmosphere they're walking into? You know, is it a pleasant atmosphere? Does it feel tense? Do you get greeted as you walk in, or are you just ignored and you stand there waiting for 10 minutes? All of those touch points can influence the price of the service that you're paying. Because if I walk in somewhere and I get greeted, I get told that someone will be right with me, maybe there's refreshments, snacks, light music playing, it smells good, it's cozy, that's going to make me want to come back. And that's something that's not even to do with a lash lift or any treatment that
Right.
you're receiving. So I think that plays a huge role in pricing. But again, really also focusing on the skill behind it. Did you have proper training in the skill that you're providing? how much did you invest into your education, and how is that reflecting on the treatment that you're providing for your client? You know, did you go to YouTube University and just learn it online? Or did you actually go through the full process of having someone come out and master that skill? How long have you been performing the treatment? And is your results consistent as well? I know the big question with the Korean lash lift in particular is, should I be charging more for it?
Mm.
Because what people are seeing is, to an extent, they are seeing a little bit more of a dramatic effect from the Korean lash lift. And a lot of that comes down to just the technique that's being used. But some salons are charging 10 to 20% more for Korean lash lifting than their traditional lifts. And you know, it is every salon's personal choice if you're going to charge more, of course, but you have to consider the cost of your product. How much more are you paying for each application? How much money did you invest into your training and your staff's training? And how much time is it taking you to perform the treatment? Are you doing it in that same time frame as a normal lash lift, or is it taking you 15, 20 minutes longer because it's a new skill? If you price by hour, obviously you would need to charge more then because it's taking you and your staff longer. But that's the considerations there, really.
I feel like I'm so obsessed with what you said earlier, the invisible price tag. You walk into a place, right? You walk into a clinic and you automatically know you're going to be paying more and you're happy to do so. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the reason is almost invisible, but it's visible if you're looking for it. You know, you're looking for all those subtle cues. You're talking about communication from the time that you book or call is different. It's outstanding. Your experience the minute you walk in through the door and even before you walk through that door, with maybe pre and post things that they do that the clinic salon or spa does to prep you.
Mm-hmm.
When you walk in, it's not just how you're greeted, but how you're made to be, like how you feel. How do they
Yes.
make you feel when you walk in? I think that's the invisible price tag as well. And then how you market it. Because if you're outstanding at marketing a Korean, trend, if you're on it and you're, on your socials and you're cool with what you're saying, you're confident with what you're saying, you're having your testimonials, which you can in because it's a grooming service, so you are absolutely allowed, because in aesthetics you're not allowed to do that anymore. But with this realm, you can still use your testimonials, you can still tag, you can still do all your cool stuff. How well are you doing all of the other things determines how much you can charge, not just your skill level. Of course, your skill level is going to be there, but it's all of it together. And I feel like Elleebana, Otto's so cool. And the way that Elleebana is set up, it's just a really cool place to be. And it teaches you how to communicate that way with your clients too, don't you feel?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, we always talk about what can we do to make people feel like they're getting that ultimate experience from the first time they reach out to 6 months later, calling with follow-ups. How are you going? You know, what's happened? You did a relift. How did it go? Give us more details. That's a big focus for us.
Yeah, I feel like in your training as well, it's the vibe from start to finish that makes it exciting. The training's exciting, the technique is exciting, the way you talk about it is exciting, and therefore that translates to the client. It's not just a lash lift. It's, it's something that you can do that makes you feel amazing and you can convey that. Um, the nitty gritty things, because I've heard that using flat shields is can be better, and there's recommended tools and things like that. Kind of give us the inside track on what's the truth on the recommended tools.
Yeah, yeah. So for the Korean lash lift, we'll start there. There is two tools that you'll need to have in addition to your normal lash lifting
Yes, we
kit,
do need
and
them.
that's your flat shield and your viscosity controller. Now, flat shields are going to be just like lash lifting shields, except they are virtually completely flat. They're placed on the eyelid, just like normal rods or shields would be. But what we're doing is we're sticking the lashes up flat onto that flat shield. Now, the purpose there is really to allow us to get full saturation of the hair all the way from the tip all the way to the base of that lash, and again start that redirecting motion, in that step one process. So the viscosity controller is the powder that you mix into your lotions, both step 1 and step 2. And what that's going to do, of course, is it's going to make it take on a thicker paste-like consistency. We kind of advise to aim for your step 1 to be almost like a toothpaste consistency. So it should
really?
be
That thick?
sticky. Yep. And that's what's then used to kind of work as your adhesive and stick the lashes up onto that flat shield. We do then recommend using your cling wrap, brow wrap, whatever you have, just to push the lashes completely flat upwards to make sure they're really saturating and soaking in that thickened lotion that we have applied. Those are the two main differences though. So those are the two tools you would need.
If you know they're selling you a Korean lash lift, but you're not having that flat, the flat, you know, what is it called? Shield. The flat shield is not actually a Korean facelift. It's not facelift. Gosh, that's what I need, a Korean facelift. Menopause. I turned 50 and my brain turned to mush and so did my skin. With the shield, yeah. So you know you're not having one. And if you tell me a little bit about regen, what is that?
Yeah, for sure. So regen is our step 3 conditioner essentially. So it is a plant-based alternative to a keratin treatment. It's very similar to just any conditioning step that you may find in lash lifting systems. So keratin lash lifts have the inclusion of keratin, lash Botox, lash filler. All those terms are very similar to what regen is going to do. Essentially, they're all just going to be nourishing conditioning agents to aid in your lash lift and give a better, nicer result. Now with regen, the unique thing about it is a cream consistency. So you can mix it into different steps of your lash lifting process. So in a normal lash lift, a traditional lash lift, you could mix it into your step 2 solution, into your tint, or you could use it as a standalone product, kind of like a mask almost. But the big question in relating it back to Korean lash lifting is people are then asking, can you mix regen with step 2 when using a viscosity controller? Because it is going to affect to some extent the efficacy of the product that you're applying.
And the absorption too.
Of course, yeah. And one thing that we have really found with mixing the viscosity controllers into your lotions is it can lessen the potency of them ever so slightly. So with our processing times, we're finding with the lotions, you have to leave them slightly longer if you're using a significant amount of the viscosity controller. It's just lessening the efficacy of the lotion. So same thing with the regen then. If you're mixing it with your step 2 and you're putting your viscosity controller in, it could potentially affect the efficacy of the product. And it could also affect your mixing ratios. So that's more liquid into your mixture. You may have to use more of the viscosity controller powder, which then may lessen the efficacy ever so slightly more. So there's a lot of considerations there. And if you are using a product like regen, we would recommend mixing it with your tint or using it standalone at the end of the treatment. But for a Korean lift, it's probably not the most beneficial way to mix it with step 2.
And I mean, why would somebody mix it with step 2? I mean, you've got this thick paste on, you've got your viscosity modifier or mediator there. You're mixing in the regen. Is that to save time?
It is to save time. So regen needs about 5 minutes to be effective, essentially. So what we find in normal lash lifting applications is most often people are going to mix it with their tint, but if they're not tinting the lashes and they still want to incorporate it into their treatment, that's then when they would go for step 2. So if your client has a tint allergy or they're just opting out of a tint in general, a lot of people do gravitate towards that step 2 mixture. But in the case of a Korean lift, again, we would say tint or standalone would be the best.
I think so. I mean, there's so many variables and so many things that can go right and so many things that can probably not go right. And then you're introducing another element into an already complex kind of step 2. You're better off tagging 5 minutes at the end, taking 5 minutes extra, but you're not worrying about then having to, I don't know, talk to your client again when they're not happy because it hasn't worked because you've mucked up the proportions of the mixtures. So I think sometimes that there's so much to be said in taking that little bit extra time to do something well, and then charge for it rather than hurrying up, charging less, and then, the repercussions of it. Eliplex serum.
Yeah.
I hear so much about Eliplex serum. Tell me about it for starters. What is it? What is it? What does it do? And then can it be applied before step two?
Sure. So with our serums, they are designed as aftercare serums. So we do have two of them. We have the Eliplex Advanced Aftercare and our Hyaluronic Boost Serum. So both of them are going to be a clear mascara, essentially just a clear serum that could be used for lash and brow health. They are really focused on hydration. With the Advanced Aftercare, the main ingredients are going to be your keratin, biotin, arginine. Again, really working to nourish, hydrate that lash and brow. With the hyaluronic boost, it's going to be a vegan alternative, has slightly more advanced active ingredients in it. So plant-based peptides, amino acids, different ingredients that again are going to work to nourish the hair, along with sodium hyaluronate, which is where the hyaluronic comes from. So with the hyaluronic boost, we do see plumping of the hair with application, which is one of the big selling factors for it. But the question with Korean lash lifting is there is a bit of talk online about using these types of serums in between step one and step two, specifically with the Eliplex serums, whether it's the advanced aftercare or the hyaluronic boost. It isn't something we would recommend to use it in between steps. It is something that is discussed quite a lot, but these serums in particular are designed as aftercare. They're meant to be used at the end of a treatment as home care for the client. And we really do price these serums for the salon's benefit to be making profit on retail products. Our goal with these is every client who's coming in for a lash or brow service should be walking out the door with one of these serums in hand to make sure that their results are lasting even longer. They're getting that long-term health out of the result that they've achieved. The way I always explain aftercare serums to clients is it's like if you washed your hair every single day, but you never conditioned it. How would your hair feel over time? It'd feel very dry, it'd feel very strawy, it wouldn't feel great. Same thing with your lashes though. If you're washing your face every single day and you're never conditioning your lashes, eventually they're going to start to have a little bit of that dry texture to them, especially after a chemical treatment like a lash lift procedure. So those serums really do have the most benefit as an aftercare retail product for clients to go home with. Regen is the product we would encourage you to use in your actual treatment. So if you are looking for a nourishing step to apply in the application, we would recommend Regen for that because that is a professional use only product. That's something you have to apply to the clients. We don't retail that one to them. So if you're looking for a hydration step to incorporate, Regen's the one. Definitely retail the advanced aftercare and the hyaluronic boost, but we wouldn't use it in the actual applications.
I've heard that the Eliplex serum is really good for natural lashes too.
It is, absolutely. I use it probably more than I should. I use it a few times a day, I feel
Oh,
like.
really? How awesome.
I
You
just
know what
pop
else
it.
I've heard? So you know what else I've heard? People are like, oh, we don't need a lash and brow serum. We just put our moisturizer over the top. No, that's
Yeah,
a no. That
that's
doesn't work. Like it doesn't, it's not the same.
it's not the same. So the molecules in your lash and brow serums are very, very small, and they're designed to actually penetrate into the hair and nourish that hair from the inside out, going past just that cuticle layer and really working deep within the hair. What we find with a lot of traditional, just moisturizers, whatever they might be, conditioners, whatever you're using, even some oils like castor oil is a very popular one. They don't offer the most hydration benefits to the hair because they're not actually penetrating into that hair and nourishing it. That's the
There's
main
a whole
difference.
science on hair care. Now, I'm a formulator, so I know. But you're not going to put moisturize, like if I wash my hair with shampoo, I've got a surfactant in my shampoo. Pretty much you can have nourishing shampoos as well, but pretty much you're, lifting the dirt with certain preparations.
Yeah.
You're not going to put a moisturizer, you're not going to put a face moisturizer on your hair as a conditioner. it's not the right product. It's not going to penetrate. It's not going to do its job. Your hair is wanting keratin. It's wanting a whole bunch of other different things, and it's wanting different molecular sizes as well for penetration. And so it's like that. So people say to me, "Oh no, we use the moisturizer. It's fine." It's like, well, do you do that with your shampoo? You moisturize your hair with your facial moisturizer afterwards? No, you don't.
They look at you like you're
Crazy.
crazy. You said that. It is funny how differently people look at lash and brow hair, but it is still hair. It's the same hair on your body, you know, same layers.
Yeah.
Structure is very
And the
similar.
other thing is, like, you know, there's the ionic element to hair moisturizing or hair hydrating products. You know, that's not in a moisturizer because you don't need that for skin. You need that for hair. So it's a whole different ball game. So if you're out there thinking, I don't need them, think again. If you don't have nice, thick, long lashes, that could probably be why you're stripping your you know, your hair, your skin away with, you know, these great cleansers out there, and then you're moisturizing, but you're really depleting your lashes and brows. So that's a really good
Absolutely.
tip. And so you actually have courses. There's so many courses that you guys offer. I love the fact that you're so education focused. So tell me, you've got an online course that you've launched. Tell us about that.
Yeah, definitely. So we have a really amazing online course that deep dives not only the Korean lash lift, but also freestyle and adhesive-free methods and does a really in-depth comparison of the three. And like I was mentioning earlier, why you would use all three. It gives a few different application videos walking you through that process, showing the different procedures to get there. You know, all three are trending techniques that can help to elevate your treatments to the next level. So the online course is going to give you all of that information so you can best prepare yourself. The online course is self-paced, and you do get a certificate of completion at the end as well, which is a benefit as well. But the online course is only $150. So it's very affordable. It's super in-depth for the value there. And it goes over all of those little techniques that you will need. And for our salons, you know, here in Australia, we do hands-on look and learns and in-salon training for the Korean technique as well. So if you do feel like you maybe don't learn the best in an online format and you want one of us educators, we do have those as well. So you can always reach out to us if you ever want to arrange one of those.
Thank you. Gosh, I love Elleebana. I have to say, I'm a massive fan. I love Ottawa. I love the culture there. It's so good. I mean, me as the, you know, CEO of ABIC, I get to experience all different suppliers. All of our suppliers are incredible. There's a vibe with each of them, right? You walk in, there's a vibe, and that vibe at Elleebana is just the reason why that he keeps this, you know, team for so long, and the reason why everyone gravitates towards this brand is because it's not just incredible formulas. It is, but it's a brand with heart. It's an Australian brand. It's like sort of one of the pride of our countries because it's an incredible export for our country as well, which is so incredible to be out there on the global platform. So congratulations to you. And thank you so much for being a foundation member of ABIC and supporting the industry and all the things that we do, education reform, regulation, standards, a whole bunch of things that we do for our industry that are meaningful and are going to help it grow, prosper, and thrive. So thank you so much for your support and for being with us today, Lauren. It was great having you.
Of course, it's our pleasure. You know, we love everything you guys do. So we're very happy to be a part of it. I know everyone on the team would completely agree with that. So thank you because we
Oh, how
appreciate
lovely. Well, please come back and join us again and tell us about some more trending cool stuff in the future.
it. Sure, can do.
Have a great day. Bye, everyone. Thanks for
You
watching.
too.
Bye.